You've been throwing money at bags of fertilizer when the solution has been growing as weeds in your backyard this whole time. I'm talking about plants that literally pull nitrogen out of thin air and dump it into your soil for free. No chemicals, no monthly trips to the garden center, just nature doing what it's done for millions of years before humans decided to complicate everything. Stick around because plant number 3 can fix more nitrogen in one season than a $100 bag of synthetic fertilizer. And it grows so fast you'll think you're hallucinating. Let's start with number 7. And trust me, you've probably been pulling this one out and throwing it away. Number 7. White clover. The lawn weed that's actually saving your soil. White clover. Your HOA hates it. Your neighbors spray Roundup on it. But botanists and soil scientists, they worship this plant like it's garden royalty. And they're right. White clover is a legume, which means it has a superpower that most plants don't have. It partners up with bacteria in the soil called rhizobia. These bacteria live in little nodules on the clover's roots, and they do something absolutely wild. They grab nitrogen from the air, yes, the air, and convert it into a form that plants can actually use. Here's the thing. Our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. But plants can't use atmospheric nitrogen directly. It's like being thirsty in the middle of the ocean. Water everywhere, but you can't drink it. That's where legumes come in. They've formed this ancient partnership with bacteria that can crack that molecular code. The bacteria get sugars from the plant. The plant gets nitrogen. It's nature's original trade deal. And unlike most trade deals, this one actually works. White clover can fix between 40 to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year. Let me put that in perspective. A typical vegetable garden needs about 1 to 2 pounds of nitrogen per 100 square feet per growing season. If you underplant your garden beds with white clover, you're basically installing a nitrogen factory that works 24/7 for free. But here's where it gets better. When white clover dies back, or when you cut it down, all that nitrogen gets released into the soil. It's like a slow-release fertilizer that perfectly timed by nature. No runoff into waterways. No burning your plants because you added too much. Just steady, consistent nitrogen feeding. People have been brainwashed into thinking lawns should be pure grass monocultures. That's insane. It's ecologically dead. A lawn with clover mixed in? That's actually alive. It feeds itself. It stays green during droughts because clover has deeper roots. It doesn't need constant fertilization because it makes its own. The bees love it. The soil loves it. The only thing that doesn't love it is the lawn chemical industry. And that should tell you everything you need to know. Plant white clover between your vegetables. Let it fill in the gaps in your orchard. Throw it in your lawn. It spreads on its own. It's nearly indestructible. And it works year-round in most climates. If you're still paying for nitrogen fertilizer while pulling out clover, you're doing gardening on hard mode, for no reason. Austrian winter peas. The cold weather nitrogen bomb. Austrian winter peas. If white clover is the steady worker, Austrian winter peas are the overachiever who shows up early and stays late. This plant is specifically designed for one job: fix massive amounts of nitrogen in cold weather when most other plants are dormant and useless. Most cover crops die or go dormant when temperatures drop. Austrian winter peas? They laugh at frost. They can germinate in soil as cold as 40 degrees Fahrenheit. They'll keep growing when there's snow on the ground. And while they're doing that, their roots are housing billions of nitrogen-fixing bacteria that are working overtime. Here's what makes this plant so valuable. You plant it in fall. It grows through winter. By spring, you have this thick, lush ground cover that's absolutely loaded with nitrogen. Then you chop it down, let it decompose for 2 weeks, and plant your spring crops directly into that nitrogen-rich biomass. It's like giving your garden a massive shot of steroids, except it's completely natural and costs basically nothing. Austrian winter peas can fix up to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre. In a typical home garden plot of 100 square feet, that translates to nearly half a pound of pure nitrogen. That's what you'd get from spreading 10 pounds of synthetic October 10th fertilizer. Except this nitrogen is chelated, it's slow release, and it comes packaged with all the other benefits of organic matter decomposition. But wait, there's more. While the nitrogen fixation is happening underground, the above-ground growth is preventing soil erosion, suppressing weeds and improving soil structure. When you till it in or chop it down in spring, All that organic matter feeds your soil biology. Earthworms go absolutely crazy for decomposing pea vines. I've seen earthworm populations triple in beds where I've used winter peas as a cover crop. The only downside: you need to plan ahead. You can't just throw these seeds down in March and expect miracles. They need to go in during fall, typically September or October, depending on your climate zone. But if you can plan one season ahead, Austrian winter peas are like installing a nitrogen time-release capsule in your soil. Plant them once. Let them do their thing. You have the richest, most fertile soil you've had all year. No bag of Miracle Grow required. Number 5. Crimson clover. The spring explosion of free fertility. Crimson clover. If you've never seen a field of crimson clover in full bloom, you're missing one of nature's greatest shows. These deep red, cone-shaped flowers standing 3 feet tall, covering entire fields like someone spilled red paint everywhere. But we're not here for aesthetics. We're here for the nitrogen. And crimson clover delivers it in truckloads. So it's got the same nitrogen-fixing superpower. But crimson clover has some unique advantages. First, it grows fast. Really fast. You can plant it in early spring. It's already flowering. That rapid growth means rapid nitrogen fixation. It's essentially speed running the process that takes white clover all season. Crimson clover can fix 70 to 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre in a single growing season. For a home gardener, that means one bed planted with crimson clover can generate enough nitrogen to feed that same bed for an entire year of vegetable production. You're essentially pre-loading your soil with fertilizer, except the fertilizer is free and comes wrapped in beautiful flowers that pollinators absolutely worship. Here's the strategy that professional market gardeners use. They divide their growing space into zones. One zone is actively producing vegetables. Another zone is planted with crimson clover. After the clover blooms, they chop it down, let it decompose for a few weeks, then plant that zone with their most nitrogen-hungry crops like tomatoes, peppers, corn, or brassicas. The results are consistently better than fields that rely on synthetic fertilizers, and the soil quality improves year after year instead of degrading. Crimson clover has another trick. Its roots are really good at scavenging phosphorus from deep in the soil profile. When the plant dies and decomposes, that phosphorus becomes available near the surface where your vegetable roots can access it. So you're not just adding nitrogen. You're cycling phosphorus that would otherwise be locked away and useless. The flowers are incredible for beneficial insects. Parasitic wasps, they all flock to crimson clover like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. More beneficial insects means better pollination of your vegetables and natural pest control. You're building an ecosystem, not just growing plants. Crimson clover can reseed aggressively. If you let it go to seed and those seeds drop, you'll have volunteer crimson clover popping up everywhere next year. For some people, that's a feature, not a bug. Free cover crop that plants itself. Yes, please. For others who want strict control over what grows where, you need to cut it down before the seeds mature. Your choice. Number 4. Hairy vetch. The nitrogen-fixing terminator. That nothing can stop. Hairy vetch. The name sounds like something from a bad horror movie. But this plant is absolutely unstoppable when it comes to building soil fertility. If Austrian winter peas are good, hairy vetch is their big brother who lifts weights and drinks protein shakes. This plant can fix up to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre. That's the high end of what legumes are capable of. But here's what makes hairy vetch truly special. It's a vine. It climbs. It scrambles over everything. And while it's doing that, it's producing massive amounts of biomass. More biomass means more nitrogen gets captured, and more organic matter eventually feeds your soil. Hairy vetch has another superpower. It's allelopathic. That means it produces chemicals that suppress weed germination. While it's growing, it actively prevents weeds from taking over your garden beds. When you cut it down and let it decompose, those chemicals persist in the soil for a few weeks, giving your transplanted vegetables a weed-free head start. It's like having a natural herbicide that doesn't kill anything, just gives your desired plants the advantage. Professional organic farmers love hairy vetch so much that entire research papers have been written about it. There's a famous study from the Rodale Institute, where they compared 3 systems over 30 years. One used synthetic fertilizers. One used manure. One used hairy vetch as a cover crop. After 3 decades, The hairy vetch system had the highest soil organic matter, the best soil structure, and crop yields that matched or exceeded the synthetic system. Let me repeat that. Hairy vetch performed as well as synthetic fertilizers over 30 years, while simultaneously improving the soil instead of degrading it. The strategy with hairy vetch is simple. Plant it in fall, ideally mixed with a cereal grain like rye or oats. The grain gives the vetch something to climb on and adds even more biomass. Let it grow through winter and early spring. In late spring, right when it's flowering, that's peak nitrogen content. Cut it all down. You can use a scythe, a mower, whatever. Let it sit on the surface as mulch for 2 weeks while it decomposes. Then plant directly into it, or till it in lightly. I've used this method in my own garden for 3 years now. The difference is visible. The soil is darker. It holds water better. The earthworm population has exploded. My tomatoes grow bigger without any added fertilizer than they did when I was dumping bags of chemical nutrients. And I'm spending less money and less time than I ever did with the conventional approach. The only real downside to hairy vetch: the seeds are expensive compared to other cover crops. You're looking at about $30 to $50 for enough seed to cover 1,000 square feet. But here's the thing. You're replacing fertilizer that would cost you $50 to $100 per year. Every year. Hairy vetch is a one-time purchase that keeps paying dividends for multiple seasons because it reseeds itself, if you let it. Number 3. Fava beans. The edible nitrogen factory, also called broad beans. Now we're talking about a plant that gives you 2 benefits simultaneously. It fixes nitrogen like all the other legumes we've discussed, but you also get to eat it. This is efficiency at its finest. Your cover crop is also a food crop. Fava beans are absolute workhorses. When it comes to nitrogen fixation, they can fix 150 to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre. But unlike most cover crops that you just chop down and compost, with fava beans you harvest the beans, eat them, and the roots, with all those nitrogen-packed nodules, stay in the ground and feed your soil. You're essentially mining the atmosphere for free fertilizer, while simultaneously growing a protein-rich food crop. That's gardening on expert mode. Here's how the pros do it. Plant fava beans in early spring or late fall depending on your climate. Let them grow. When the beans are ready, harvest the pods. Cook them up. They're delicious if you've never tried them. But here's the key. Don't pull the plants out. Cut them off at ground level. Leave the roots in the soil. Those roots are absolutely covered in nitrogen-fixing nodules. As they decompose, they release all that captured nitrogen directly into the root zone where your next crop will be planted. Fava beans have massive roots. I'm talking roots that can go down 3 feet or more. That deep root system does several things. It breaks up compacted soil layers. It brings up nutrients from deep in the subsoil. And it creates channels that improve drainage and aeration. When those roots decompose, they leave behind highways for future plant roots to follow. Your soil structure improves dramatically. There's an old agricultural saying, never let your soil see the sun. It means you should always have something growing to protect and feed the soil. Fava beans are perfect for this. In cold climates, you can plant them in fall. They'll overwinter and be one of your first spring harvests. That means your soil is covered and actively being improved during the shoulder seasons, when most gardens are bare dirt. A single fava bean plant can have 20 to 30 nodules on its roots, each one housing millions of nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Do the math. If you have 20 fava bean plants in a 4x8 raised bed, that's potentially 400 to 600 nodules, all working to convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant-available forms. That's a microbial workforce of billions, maybe trillions of bacteria, all working for free 24 hours a day. No fertilizer company can compete with that. And let's talk about the beans themselves. High in protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. They're used in cuisines all over the world. Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, Asian. Fava beans are an excellent place to start because they're nearly impossible to kill, and they improve your soil while they grow. Number 2. Alfalfa, the deep mining mineral accumulator. Alfalfa, the king of forage crops. Farmers have been using alfalfa for thousands of years, and there's a reason it's called the queen of forages. This plant is an absolute beast when it comes to soil improvement, and most home gardeners are completely ignoring it. Yes, alfalfa fixes nitrogen. It's a legume, So that's expected. It can fix 200 to 250 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year. That's at the very top end of what legumes can do. But nitrogen fixation is just the opening act. The real magic of alfalfa is happening underground with roots that can extend 10 to 15 feet deep. 10 to 15 feet. That's not a typo. Those massive roots are mining minerals from deep in the subsoil. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, trace minerals that most plants can't reach. Alfalfa pulls them up and stores them in its leaves and stems. When you cut alfalfa down and use it as mulch or compost it, all those deep minerals become available at the surface where your vegetable plants can use them. It's like having a bucket truck that brings nutrients from the basement to the penthouse. This is called dynamic accumulation, and it's one of the most underappreciated concepts in gardening. You're not just adding nitrogen, you're cycling minerals through the entire soil profile. Over time, this creates incredibly rich topsoil that gets deeper and more fertile every year. That's how natural prairie soils were built. Deep-rooted perennial legumes like alfalfa cycling nutrients for thousands of years. Here's a practical application. Say you have a new garden plot with terrible soil. Hard clay, low fertility. Basically dead. Plant alfalfa. Let it grow for a full season. In that time, those roots will break through the clay. Add organic matter deep underground, as roots naturally slough off and regrow, and start bringing up minerals. After one season, cut it all down. Let it decompose. Till it in lightly or just plant directly into it. Your soil will be transformed. What would have taken years of adding compost and amendments, alfalfa can accomplish in one season. Commercial organic farmers use alfalfa in rotation specifically for this reason. After 3 to 4 years of row crops, they'll put a field into alfalfa for 2 to 3 years. The soil rebuilds itself. Organic matter increases. Nitrogen levels skyrocket. Mineral balances correct themselves. Then they rotate back to cash crops, and the yields are phenomenal without any synthetic inputs. For home gardeners, you don't need to dedicate entire beds to alfalfa, though you could. Another strategy is to grow alfalfa in one area, cut it multiple times during the growing season, and use those nutrient-dense clippings as mulch on your vegetable beds. You're essentially making fertilizer in one part of your garden and moving it to another. Each cutting is loaded with nitrogen, minerals, and organic matter. Alfalfa also produces compounds that stimulate plant growth. There's actually a commercial product called alfalfa meal that gardeners buy as a fertilizer. It costs about $20 for a 50-pound bag. Or you could just grow alfalfa and make it yourself for the cost of seeds. A pound of alfalfa seed costs about $5 and will plant hundreds of square feet. One caveat: alfalfa is a perennial. Once it's established, it's staying unless you actively work to remove it. Those deep roots make it very persistent. For some gardens, that's perfect. For others who want to rotate crops every year, you need to plan accordingly. But even if you grow it for 1 or 2 seasons and then remove it, the benefits to your soil will last for years afterward. Number 1. Comfrey. The permaculture superstar that gardeners fight wars over. Comfrey. We've reached number 1. The plant that permaculture designers obsess over. The plant that has more nutrients than most commercial fertilizers. The plant that grows so aggressively that some countries have literally banned it because it's too effective. If there's one plant that can replace your fertilizer bill completely, it's comfrey. First, let's clear something up. Comfrey is not technically a nitrogen-fixing legume. It doesn't have nodules on its roots. But it does something arguably even better. It's a dynamic accumulator on steroids. Comfrey's roots can go down 8 feet or more, down where clay deposits hold minerals that have been locked away for decades. Comfrey pulls up nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, copper, and a whole suite of trace minerals. Its leaves contain more potassium than bananas, more calcium than milk, more protein than some animal feeds. When you cut comfrey leaves and use them as mulch, you're applying a balanced, complete fertilizer. Not just nitrogen, not just one thing. Everything your plants need, in ratios that are naturally balanced. This is why old-time gardeners called it the poor man's fertilizer. You didn't need to buy anything. You just grew comfrey and used it. A single mature comfrey plant can produce 4 to 5 cuttings per season. Each cutting yields several pounds of leaves. One plant can generate 20 to 30 pounds of biomass in a year. Plant 10 comfrey plants around your garden, and you have a fertilizer factory producing hundreds of pounds of nutrient-dense material annually. And it costs nothing except the initial plant purchase and water. Here's the strategy that works best. Plant comfrey around the perimeter of your garden beds or in unused corners. Let it establish for one season. Starting in year 2, begin cutting it regularly. You can cut it every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. Take those leaves and use them as mulch directly on your vegetable beds. Chop them up and add them to compost to supercharge the pile. Or make comfrey tea by stuffing leaves in a bucket of water and letting it ferment for 2 weeks. That tea is liquid gold. Dilute it 10-to-1 and use it as a foliar spray or soil drench. Studies have shown that tomatoes grown with comfrey mulch produce 20 to 30% more fruit than tomatoes grown with no amendments. Potatoes love it. Squash goes crazy for it. Any heavy-feeding crop will respond dramatically to comfrey. And unlike synthetic fertilizers that provide a quick hit and then disappear, comfrey breaks down slowly and feeds your soil biology while it's releasing nutrients. You're improving soil structure at the same time you're feeding plants. Now the controversy. Some varieties of comfrey are aggressive spreaders. The roots can be invasive. If even a small piece of root gets left in the soil, it can regrow. This has led to horror stories of gardens being overrun. But here's the solution. Plant a sterile variety like Bocking 14. It doesn't produce viable seeds, and it's much less aggressive. You get all the benefits with none of the invasive nightmares. The other argument against comfrey is that it contains compounds called pyrrolizidine alkaloids that can be toxic if consumed in large quantities over long periods. This is true. Don't eat comfrey. Don't make tea from it for drinking. But using it as mulch or compost completely safe. Those alkaloids break down during decomposition and don't transfer to your vegetables. Decades of research have confirmed this. Comfrey is used by professional organic farms, permaculture designs, and home gardeners all over the world. There's a reason it's so popular. It works. It's reliable. It's essentially bulletproof once established, and it can completely eliminate your need to purchase fertilizers. I have 12 comfrey plants in my garden. I cut them 6 to 7 times per year. I use every single leaf as mulch or compost. I haven't bought a bag of fertilizer in 4 years. My vegetable production has increased every year. My soil gets richer and darker and more alive every season. The earthworms have multiplied to the point where I see them every time I dig. And it costs me nothing but the 5 minutes it takes to cut comfrey with a pair of shears. So, there you have it. 7 plants that can completely replace your fertilizer purchases. White clover for lawns and ground cover. Austrian winter peas for cold season nitrogen loading. Crimson clover for rapid spring fertility and pollinator support. Fava beans for edible nitrogen fixation. Alfalfa for deep mineral mining and long-term soil building. And comfrey, the undisputed champion of nutrient accumulation and soil feeding. The fertilizer industry wants you to believe that feeding your soil is complicated, that you need specialized products, precise NPK ratios, expensive amendments. That's nonsense. Nature has been feeding soil for hundreds of millions of years without any help from chemical companies. These 7 plants prove it. They're free, or nearly free. They improve your soil instead of degrading it. They support beneficial insects and soil biology. And they work better than synthetic alternatives over the long term. Stop throwing money at bottles and bags. Start planting things that actually build fertility. Your soil will thank you. Your plants will thank you. Your wallet will definitely thank you. And if you're still buying fertilizer after knowing all this, well, that's on you.